Step 3. Research your target companies. Once you know what you want, it is time to find out what the companies you are applying to want. You want to figure out what perfection looks like in the company's eyes that could potentially hire you. This seems obvious, but a lot of people go about this all wrong. They decide what they are, a programmer, a writer, a lab tech, and then start building their resume without looking at what jobs they will be applying for. Then they try to fit the job description to their pre-made resume. That's basically like putting the cart before the horse, or spreading your proverbial peanut butter and jelly on the outside of your bread. Finding out more about hirers. Now, you've probably been eyeing a few companies that you believe would be a great place for you to start or continue your career journey. If you have, that's great. This will give you a good opportunity to find out more about the corporate culture and what they stand for. Do a bit of background research by following certain companies on social media, signing up for their newsletters, and keeping an eye on what moves they are making within the industry. Other than researching potential companies, it's good to get your finger on the pulse of what recruiters look for. We'll unpack this further in the next step with regard to applicant tracking systems. But for now, let's discuss what potential nationwide recruiters might be looking for. In general, there are two core areas that recruiters look at, which might not even be in your field of vision at the moment. These are your career story and your role progression. Simply put, your career story is something they will draw up from the achievements that you have listed under each role. They'll want to look at whether or not the only achievements you've accumulated were in the early years of your career and why. While your ability to rack up achievements also depends on the size of the companies you've historically worked for, smaller companies will still offer the opportunity for achievement in some way. So if your resume has a ton of listed achievements in earlier roles and none in recent roles, this will make them pause and ask why. So how do you solve this? Well, you can't lie, but you can take the time to think back on your past roles that seem a little scarce on the achievement scale and frame some of the simpler achievements that you maybe haven't listed in a compelling and positive light. Your career progression has a lot to do with job hopping. Depending on your industry, job hopping is not going to be viewed in a good light unless you frame it that way in your cover letter. This is the one exception to the rule of building a cover letter that focuses on the role in question, as you'll come to learn later. Thereafter, you can focus your attention on industry-wide research. Industry-wide role research. The most effective way to start building your resume is to first search for jobs. For instance, when someone is looking for content for process engineering roles, they might have a very vague idea of the responsibilities and requirements for that position. That is because job requirements are always changing, and if you have been out of the job market for a while, chances are you have an outdated understanding of what is now required. You'll want to get a broad spectrum idea of what is required within the roles that you're hoping to land, so be sure to look at jobs being offered by local/micro enterprises, regional/small to medium enterprises, national, international/large enterprises. What will be required of you at a regional level might not be the same as what is required of you at a local level. This will be super critical to what you include in your resume and how you structure it. After this point, you need to start beefing up your job knowledge. Updating your job knowledge. The first and most vital step in updating your job knowledge is figuring out what is in demand with regard to your given field. You'll most likely see a couple of common areas in job roles and responsibilities that will include job description, responsibilities, requirements, education, experience. This will vary in accordance with the recruitment site, the company in question, and in some cases, the country the company is based in. That being said, these are the general areas of a job post to be aware of because they will help you get a better picture of the industry. This will, therefore, help you update your job knowledge. Now, let's unpack these areas. Job description. Most companies use this job posting section to write generic things about culture fit. It is essentially a summary of the company and hints at the role. Responsibilities. This is the most important section to look at. This is really what you will be doing on the job. You want to be able to do at least 70% of the things listed here. If there are some things you cannot do or have not done before, that is okay. You can learn these new skills. This is what we call having room for growth. You should use this section to create an amazing set of resumes and cover letters that you can adapt for other posts. Requirements. This section is just a filter and should be seen as such. Employers like to exaggerate these requirements because they think it will get them better candidates. Use these requirements very loosely. If it says minimum 4 years of experience and you have 3 years, then you should apply. However, if it says minimum 8 years of experience and you only have 3 years of experience, then it is probably not a good fit, as they want someone at a more senior level. Use this as a very rough filter of what they want. Some recruitment companies and internal HR departments might structure this a bit differently, breaking the requirements section up into 2 subsections, education and experience. The education section will lay out the educational requirements for the role. In some cases, if the educational gap isn't too big, you can go ahead and apply if you feel that you suit the role but do not have the recommended education levels. There are scenarios where experience can bridge the education gap. Of course, if there's a listing for a registered nurse and you're not qualified for this, taking care of a sick family member doesn't count as experience that could bridge the education gap. Experience is where you can get a bit more creative, so be sure to adhere to the guidelines in the previous table. Top tip: at any stage of the job hunting process, always put yourself in the shoes of hiring managers. Try to see what they are seeking, then tailor your qualifications according to those. When writing your resume, think about what they'd like to see. When preparing for the interviews, think about what they'd like to hear, and so on. End of chapter checklist. Tick off each box when you feel that you know the answers to the questions with the utmost certainty. Is my knowledge up to date regarding what employers expect in the role I'm after? Do I know which websites will provide me with the latest role requirements and wages? Do I know how to source information on employers? Do I understand why corporate culture is important to employers? To learn more information on researching your target companies, please visit our website, www.radviser.com.